individuals running for one seat. They are, in alphabetical order, Gary Lee and Jim Neal.
Tonight's Waycross election forum, this being for Hamilton County Sheriff. I'm Jason Grisgoric, Waycross Community Media's Government Access Coordinator, Moderator, and Host. I'm very fortunate to have one of the two candidates running this evening. Unfortunately, Mr. Neal has not arrived due to our rules. If you are not here by the time the forum begins, we will have to begin the forum as is. But I'm very fortunate to have Mr. Gary Lee, who is running for County Sheriff.
Good to be here. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you for joining us. In a moment, I will be asking Mr. Lee for his 2-minute opening statement. Once we begin, I will then open up the phone lines and emails to you, the voting audience at home. And at this moment, I will give Mr. Lee 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Well, my name is Gary Lee, and I come here with a significant amount of experience and a distinguished career in law enforcement. I was with the City of Cincinnati Police Department for 33 years. The last 12 years of that period, I served as a captain in the department, which is considered part of the upper command staff. My last command assignment was that of District 1 Commander, which encompassed several of the critical neighborhoods downtown, including over the Rhine, the West End, Pendleton, Mount Adams, and some parts of the business district. As far as my background is concerned, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the University of Cincinnati. In fact, I periodically instruct there as an adjunct professor in the criminal justice program. I also have a master's degree in counseling from Cincinnati Christian University. I have additional training, which includes, I'm a graduate of the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I have training at the Police Executive Leadership College in Columbus, Ohio. And also, I'm a graduate of the Senior Management Institute of Policing in Boston, Massachusetts, which is actually instructed by many of the professors from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. So the important thing that I want our listeners to recognize tonight is I have a blend of practical police experience and training, particularly as it relates to organizational leadership and addictions through my master's degree program. So I think as time goes on, we will begin to see how that expertise blends together for effective leadership.
Wonderful. Thank you. At this point, we will open up the phone lines to you, the voting audience at home. If you're watching tonight on September 28th, please join in the conversation. 825-3971 is our phone number. live@waycross.org is the emails. All questions will be asked. Please, no pointed questions, and make sure that we get your name and a part of town in which you are residing when you are talking with our phone handler. So I will open up the questions to begin. Since it is just you, Mr. Lee, there will be no time constraint on answers at this point, except for the closing statement.
Okay.
Let's start out with what I normally ask. I always go into, what do you believe is what are the top 3 issues facing the Hamilton County Sheriff if you were to take office?
Well, I think the first issue that's most critical not only to the department but the community is the heroin epidemic. We have, as a county, experienced a dramatic increase in heroin overdoses, heroin abuse, and heroin deaths. And unfortunately, based upon statistics that were published in a recent article in the Cincinnati Enquirer, Hamilton County has led the state in overdoses for the last 5 years. And 4 of those 5 years are inclusive of the current administration of my opponent. As you might remember from news reports over the last 6 weeks or so, Hamilton County has also experienced an increase in heroin-related deaths, overdose deaths, mostly as the result of a new drug that's been introduced in our community, carfentanil, which is laced with the heroin, which makes it much more volatile and much more dangerous. So the heroin addiction is certainly one of the top challenges, not only for law enforcement, but for the communities as well. I think the second critical issue for the Sheriff's Department would be the budget. Over the last 4 years, the Sheriff's Department has been over budget on average between $1.5 and $4 million at any given point. And I think this is the result of not only the lack of leadership of the current administration, but the lack of vision and the lack of being able to set legitimate priorities and stay on track with those priorities. The budget overrides have not only created problems within the department, but it's also creating problems within the county budget system, because our county commissioners who award operating expenses to each department head then has to go back and rearrange a budget that's already been approved to compensate for the overages that are being created by the Sheriff's Department. And the impact that that might have on the community is that the road that you were planning on having fixed in front of your house this year might not get repaired until next year or even the year after, because the funding is being diverted back to the Sheriff's Department because basically of a lack of mismanagement and a lack of vision on how that funding should be handled. And I think another critical issue within the Sheriff's Department is personnel issues. The department currently is exhibiting some signs of dysfunction and disorientation. In addition, training has had to be cut back in the department, mostly because of budget restraints. And there is a lack of, in my opinion, what I would call professional development opportunities. What is going to happen when the current rank of upper management and leadership leaves the department as they begin to retire? How do we prepare the Sheriff's Department for the next generation of people that will be stepping into those positions of leadership? And I've seen a significant absence of that kind of planning and intentional management choices, and that concerns me. Other issues obviously are uses of force, not only as it relates to the Sheriff's Department, but law enforcement in general. So if I would have the privilege of being able to expand that to 4 categories, police community relations, especially as it relates to use of force, would be another critical issue.
It actually brings me to my next question, and basically looking at what we've seen in recent news reports throughout the United States and other areas when it is in regards to police. Do you feel that that relationship will better? And if so, how can you, if not, how can you make it better? Especially when it is becoming from a public standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the critical thing that you have to remember is that you cannot wait until a crisis occurs and then go out and try to create the relationships that will help you get through that crisis. Those important relationships with the community, whether that's with the business community, the citizens that live in the neighborhoods, the news media, the school systems, special interest groups, mental health, all of those other stakeholders in the community, those relationships have to be established in front of any critical incident. If you wait until the critical incident occurs, that's too late. And so what I have found in my 33 years of experience is the stronger the relationship is with the community from top to bottom, the better the law enforcement agency and the community is positioned to withstand any type of challenge or conflict or critical incident.
Which then, of course, leads to my next question. How does one handle a crisis moment? I mean, obviously, you are the first person that an image is seen when it comes to the county itself. Mm-hmm. How does one take that responsibility and bring that forward?
Well, if you look nationwide at the disconnect that happens between law enforcement agencies and the community, in most cases, the common theme, the common thread that weaves its way through that disconnect is a basic lack of trust. Sadly, the communities in our country have gotten to the point where they mistrust law enforcement, or at least certain segments of the community mistrust law enforcement. And it's important for law enforcement to develop that trust, and that comes through, in my opinion, openness and transparency. If a police department is open and transparent with the community that it serves, that is a tremendous step forward in being able to build trust within the community. And if you have a significant amount of trust already established, I think difficult conversations can take place and successful resolutions can occur. But it really all does come down to trust.
One of the harder questions that have been begging to be asked is what you had opened with, and that is obviously the heroin epidemic that has hit nationwide and, of course, is no stranger here to Hamilton County. Mm-hmm. With things like the Heroin Coalition Task Force, as well as bills from the state being the Good Sam bill and the like, do you think these are the proper measures that need to be taken to begin to crack that code, or is there more to be done?
I think that we cannot look at the heroin crisis as a law enforcement problem. The heroin crisis is a public health problem. And in order to successfully overcome this challenge, we have to bring in all of the other stakeholders that have expertise and assets in their specialty disciplines to deal with the key issues. Now, the specific resources that law enforcement has is the ability to interdict and interrupt the supply chain of dangerous drugs into our community. And that's the primary role that the law enforcement perspective would have. However, I believe the sheriff's department, the sheriff's office, is ideally positioned to go out and recruit other important stakeholders, bring them into the mix, inspire them, coordinate their efforts into a collaborative agreement, and that's why I support the Heroin Task Force, because that's exactly what they're trying to do. And sadly, I believe that the sheriff has not adequately promoted that task force from the standpoint of his public endorsement, using his office to continue to acquire additional resources for that task force. Other stakeholders where it's important that they become involved would be the mental health community, the medical community, the faith community, the school systems, the media. All of those different stakeholders have important roles that they can be playing either in the interdiction, the training, the public education and awareness, and so forth. So it's important to bring all of those together, and I think we're on a good start. But I want, when I take office next year, I will be putting the full weight and influence of my office behind the Heroin Task Force to make sure they have everything they need to move forward. And the fact that I have training and experience in not only diagnosing addictions, but treating addictions through my counseling practice. Jason, here's the important part. There's no other candidate in 5 states, maybe anywhere else in the country, that has the addiction background and the law enforcement background and can blend those 2 disciplines together. And that's the value that I see in me as it relates to heroin for this campaign.
You definitely bring in, any way you put it, collaboration is the key word within heroin, within anything. We've seen that from the local government down.
Yes.
What do you believe, as sheriff, you can continue that idea of collaboration, not just from the Heroin Task Force and the like, but other aspects of the office?
Well, I think the sheriff's office is in a position to help channel funding into other areas that have an important role to play in the heroin addiction. For example, it's no secret that from the beginning I've been very critical of the sheriff's billboard campaigns throughout the county. In fact, I've referred to those billboards as his vanity billboards. What he has done is taken public money and used that to fund his own personal identity, which I believe is to benefit his own political campaign. I've just found out through a public records request within the last few days that the total amount of money that he has spent on these billboards is $185,000. $185,000. Now, most of that money was asset forfeiture money that was seized from drug dealers or illegal criminal activities, and by law is allowed to be used to combat crime, to promote education, and to facilitate training. So what if we would have taken that $185,000 and applied it to more training for the drug investigators that are out there on the front lines dealing with this heroin crisis at the street level? What if we took $185,000 and applied it to rehab programs so that we could actually help people get off of the addiction cycle? What if we took that $185,000 and used it to upgrade our equipment and materials? Or even if we took the $185,000 and used it to buy more Narcan to save lives? That's how you show wise use of whatever resources you have. Sadly, the Sheriff's Department is underfunded. The Sheriff's Department does not have all of the resources they need in order to combat these very complex issues. That's why it's important for a law enforcement leader to be able to prioritize what is going to be the critical steps that he's going to use to combat this or any other problem.
Unfortunately, we are getting close to that magic number of the evening, so I am going to limit the amount of time to answer this question so that I can give you a full 2 minutes for your closing statement.
All right.
And that is, you've already started to touch on budget, and I hate to give you a 1-minute answer for a budget question, but you've already just touched lightly on varying items of the budget. What would be your means to balance that budget and make it a properly functioning Sheriff's Department?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to do is have a clear understanding of what our mission's going to be. And we have to stay on track with that mission. As I've looked at the budget over the last 4 years, I've noticed that the budget kind of takes zigzags based upon the impulsiveness of the administrative decision-making. So it's important to stay on task. It's important to stay consistent with your mission. Obviously, there are areas of waste that I think that we can begin to eliminate. Most importantly, I think it's important for the sheriff to be able to advocate for his department to make sure that the county commissioners and the taxpayers have a clear understanding of what budget needs the sheriff's department has. And if you look at his budget presentations, he has not done a very good job of articulating what his personal needs are for his department.
Unfortunately, the time has run out, and I would like to at least be able to offer you a up to 2-minute closing statement, if you so choose.
First of all, thank you to Waycross. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak to the public. I think this empty chair is indicative of the amount of seriousness that the sheriff takes toward his roles and responsibilities in this police department, in this community, and in his sheriff's department. This chair is symbolic of the leadership that he has provided, not only his own department, but this county for the last 4 years. We need a sheriff that's going to show up. And I'm not only one that is the most qualified, I'm the one that's the most committed to come every day, understand what the key issues are, and work toward a meaningful and lasting solution. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate the votes and support of all of the members of this county.
Mr. Lee, thank you so much for joining us. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. And I also like to thank all of you for joining us as well. We've given you the information, and you've heard from the candidates that are running for the office of sheriff. Now, it's your turn. If you need more information, you can always listen and watch the remainder of our election forums that will be running throughout the month up till the election. If you need even more information, you can go to votehamiltoncounty.org. That's the Hamilton County Board of Elections website. There you can get all of your information from ballot issues to verbiage of all of the issues and candidates. You can also begin by going to be a part of early voting. Early voting begins October 7th. But the most important thing is for you to take the time to gather the information that you have and make an informed vote this November 8th. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Waycross takes no position on candidates or issues. We do these forums so that our residents may be better informed voters for the November 8th election.